be able to please the people. Am I right, Mr. Secretary Rimulya? There are moments in the life of a republic when silence becomes easier than speech, when comfort becomes more tempting than courage, and when public office is tested not by applause, but by pressure. This is one of those moments, Madam President. I rise today on a question of privilege. Just last week, I was stunned with the shadow of a complaint filed by the Field Investigation Bureau, Office of the Deputy Ombudsman for Luzon. A complaint perfectly timed, wrapped in legal language, amplified by noise, and aimed not merely at my person, but at my independence. I stand before you not as a man begging to be understood, not as a senator asking to be spared, and not as an accused shrinking from the weight of accusation. Rather, I am here as a servant of the Constitution, elected by the people, bound by oath, and determined to perform my duty without fear, without favor, and without surrender. The complaint arrived while the Senate is confronted with uncomfortable truths, namely, the pending continuation of the investigation of the anomalous flood control projects, the approaching constitutional burden of an impeachment trial, and the growing pressure upon this institution to surrender its independence through political maneuvering disguised as constitutional reform. Let us not pretend that this complaint came in a vacuum. The pattern is too visible to ignore. First, remove the inconvenient voices from the inquiry. Then weaken those who refuse to conform. Then frighten others into silence and submission before the decisive constitutional battles begin. Mr. President, this is not merely about a complaint. The trump-up charges filed against me and some of my friends are not merely legal accusations. They form part of a deeper and more nefarious design to intimidate independent voices, to punish dissent, and to warn every senator that the price of asking hard questions could lead to personal damnation. If the intention of these cases is to silence me, let me say this at the very beginning. It has failed. I will not be silenced. I did not seek public office to become comfortable, Madam President. I did not take my oath merely to occupy a seat in this chamber while billions disappear into darkness, while constitutional processes are manipulated by pressure, or while the Senate is slowly conditioned to fear retaliation for independent judgment. I did not take my oath to serve only when service is convenient. I did not come to this chamber to lend my voice when power applauds and withdraw it when power becomes displeased. The senator is not elected to be timid. The senator is not sworn into office to become a spectator while the Constitution is tested, while impeachment proceedings demand judgment, and while the people cry out for truth about the wide-scale theft and public corruption, theft of public funds. What it condemns is not frenzy. Instead, it condemns a senator is elected to stand, to examine, to question, to decide, and when necessary, to resist. This is what I intend to do. So let the complaint be examined. Let the evidence be tested. Let the law speak. I will answer in the proper forum with documents, with facts, and with the calm confidence of one who knows that accusation is not proof, that attacks couched in legal veil do not constitute the truth. And before the Filipino people, I must say what is plain. A complaint without nexus is not justice. A complaint without evidence is public injury, official favor, corrupt consideration, or abuse of office is not accountability. It is machinery. It is pressure. It is a warning shot fired at those who refuse to kneel. And if that warning was meant for me, Mr. President, then the answer is very clear. It failed. The complaint against me speaks of amounts, it speaks of dates, it speaks of suspicion. But suspicion is not evidence. Amount is not corruption. Political inconvenience is not probable cause. An accusation, no matter how loudly repeated, is not proof. It is a theater. It is pressure. It is machination. Let me state the legal defenses plainly on the allegations against me. The law did not define the limits of liberality among friends. They did not say that friendship must stop at the number chosen by one's accusers. They did not say that generosity becomes criminal merely because the amount is substantial. What the law forbids is not liberality. It forbids corruption. What it condemns is not friendship. It condemns the sale of public duty. At least I stated the truth. At least I faced the issue. At least I did not hide behind silence. So I ask, what of those who receive support, gifts, donations, favors, or assistance for their own electoral campaigns and keep them beyond public scrutiny? Shall the law be a sword only against those who dissent and shield for those who belong to the circle of the powerful? If transparency is demanded, let it be demanded of all. If public morality is the standard, let no one be exempt because of wealth, alliance, influence, or proximity to power. And so I speak again, clearly and directly. What official act did I sell? What vote did I promise? What public fund did I touch? What government contract was delivered? What favor was asked, promised, or given? If they cannot answer these questions, then this complaint is not the pursuit of justice. It is a deliberate attempt to silence dissent. But this is larger than me. This is not a fight for one man. This is not a fight for one faction. This is not a fight for political survival. This is a fight for whether the Filipino people may still have senators capable of questioning, investigating, judging, and speaking freely without fear or favor. When this chamber is called upon to sit in impeachment proceedings, we are not merely politicians. We are senator judges. We are bound to listen, to weigh evidence, to apply the Constitution, and to act according to our conscience. That responsibility cannot be curtailed by fear, pressure, harassment, or manufactured accusation. No one should be allowed to intimidate a senator judge into silence. No one should be allowed to punish a member of this chamber for ensuring that impeachment must be governed by law, evidence, due process, and conscience. Whether one favors or opposes any party in those proceedings, that's not the point. The point is whether the Constitution shall speak about political convenience. I will perform that duty, Madam President. I will listen. I will weigh the evidence. I will obey the Constitution. I will not prejudge. I will not be dictated upon. I will not surrender the independence of my vote to any power outside this chamber. Even if the path become lonely, I will walk it. Even if the attacks become heavier, I will endure them. Even if my voice becomes inconvenient to the powerful, I will continue to speak the way I should. The same is true of the Senate's investigation of the flood control scandal. That inquiry must continue. It must not be weakened. It must not be derailed. It must not be silenced. If there has been grand-scale theft from the country's coffers, then that is among the greatest sins of our modern public life. It is not ordinary corruption. It is the stealing of safety from communities that drown. It is the stealing of roads from farmers. It is the stealing of classrooms from children. It is stealing of medicine from the sick, wages from workers, and hope from taxpayers who labor honestly while others feast on public money. No senator should be silenced when the duty is to follow the trail of the public's money. No committee should be weakened when the task is to expose corruption. No voice should be threatened when the question before the nation is whether the billions intended for the people were ransacked by bandits of insatiable greed. I do not fear imprisonment. I fear a country where freedom itself is imprisoned. I fear a republic where legal processes are twisted into weapons, where dissenting voices in the Senate are mechanically trimmed down, and where the rich and the powerful elite manipulate institutions so that only their chosen voices may be heard, while others may refuse to speak because of threats. I will not, Madam President. I will not let fear write my narrative. I will not let intimidation decide my vote. Make me bleed, and I will still shout out to the high heavens for truth and justice. Push me against the wall, and I will still push back with all the lawful strength that conscience, evidence, faith, and duty can give me. Not with violence, not with hatred, not with recklessness, but within the Constitution, in my hand, the law in my shield, the truth as my voice, and the Filipino people as my reason. Nelson Mandela once spoke of a democratic and free society as an ideal for which he was prepared, if necessary, to die. I do not compare myself to Mandela. I am too little to even try, Madam President. But I understand the burden of that lesson. Freedom is never preserved by the silent. It is preserved by those who still speak when silence becomes the safer choice. And so I say this to those who believe that cases can frighten us, that accusation can tame us, that pressure can make us forget the oath we took before the people. You have misread the Senate. You have misread the Constitution. You have misread me. May I repeat? I will answer this complaint in the proper forum, calmly, firmly, and with evidence. I will sit in impeachment proceedings with conscience, impartiality, and due regard for the record. I will pursue the examination of flood control anomalies with courage, fairness, and determination. I will not allow public funds meant to protect our people from floods to disappear into the hands of those who already have too much. I will not allow the greatest theft of our time to be buried under intimidation. Even if I am the only one left standing, I will stand. Even if my voice is the last one they wish to hear, I will still speak. Even if the path becomes lonely, difficult, and costly, I will continue because the oath I took was not ceremonial. It was not a line recited for record. It was a solemn charge from the Filipino people to defend the Constitution, to guard the public trust, and to act with courage when silence becomes convenient. Let those who weaponize the law answer to history. Let those who steal from the people answer to justice. Let those who seek to silence dissent understand this. A senator who remembers his oath cannot be purchased by comfort, cannot be subdued by threats, and cannot be defeated by fear. Madam President, kaya po ba nila kong ipakulong? Kayang-kaya po nila. Nagawa nga po nilang umimbento ng krimen laban sa akin. Kamakailan lamang po, hindi pa nagtatagal. Dito rin sa bulwagang ito, somebody said, sometimes you need to bend the law to be able to please the people. Am I right, Mr. Secretary Remulla? Secretary Remulla, then Secretary of Justice, now Ombudsman, said loudly, yes, sir. So pwede na nang baluktutin lahat, kagaya ng pambabaluktot na ginawa nila. Pero sinasabi ko, Madam President, they can imprison me, they can arrest me, but I tell them, they still will not win. Itaga nila yon sa bato. Madam President, before ending, let me share the declarations of our Lord God in Isaiah 54:17. No weapon forged against you will prevail. You will refute every tongue that accuses you. This is the heritage of the servant of the Lord. This is their vindication from me. Maraming salamat po.